Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Elaine.
That's what I've just said.
Yes, but you said hello to me.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's common that I say hello to you back.
Okay, hello again.
Hello, and I apologise.
What's wrong?
WWE is moving to Netflix in January next year.
I don't understand why that's something for you to apologise for.
Because I'll be watching it all the fucking time.
Well, I think that maybe that's something that the WWE network has to apologise for. So, right. So they're moving to Netflix, which I'm presuming then means that the WWE network will be no more. So you won't be signing up and subscribing to that network as a separate streaming service.
So this takes over two different contracts in the UK. There is the weekly programming is currently on TNT Sports, previously known as BT Sports. So there's Raw, SmackDown, and up until recently NXT, but that's dropped off and gone on the network. That's on live on a Monday night, on a Friday night. We don't have that because I can't be asked to pay £30 just to watch the wrestling.
Fair enough.
Then there is the WWE Network, which has it's a mix. It's got their premium stuff, so WrestleMania is on the WWE Network, the Royal Rumble's on the WWE Network, but then also there is lesser shows. So they've got the archive of all the wrestling tape libraries that they've bought, or a lot of them. So you can watch stuff from Oklahoma in the 80s and Atlanta in the 80s, but also it's got the C-level shows, so main event, which is not in any way main event level matches, and NXT Level Up, which is the people that are before they even get on NXT.
So all of that will not be going to Netflix?
Yes, it will.
Oh,
yeah.
it will,
So
right.
everything's going to Netflix.
Okay,
it's
right.
an exclusive deal, so which, considering we get it with Sky, and
Yeah.
it's pretty good, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's the first time Netflix have properly done live content, so it's quite a big deal in the media world. Richard Osman was talking about it on The Truth Is Entertainment. Is that the name of the show?
No.
The rest is entertainment.
The rest is entertainment.
Which is really weird that everyone talking about it now. Because
Yeah. It seems to be a real hot topic now.
I mean, unfortunately, I feel I need to say there are other reasons why people are talking about WWE, which is the most. There's been a sex scandal that's been going on for a couple of years. A civil lawsuit has been filed. That's now public, and reading it is one of the most depressing things. Everyone knew that Vince McMahon was a shagger. Let's put it that way. He is hidden in plain sight on TV. He has boasted about his affairs. He has a marriage of convenience, which has not been a proper marriage for many years now, with Linda McMahon, who is an occasional character on TV, less so now. But this is absolute coercion, abuse of power. It's just one of the grimmest things I've ever read. And it really is breaking my heart that, it's made me think, do I even bother going on watching wrestling? Because it's just fucking shit that these pricks are doing this thing. And this poor girl who's very brave to come forwards. Her name had previously been leaked to the media, so that just shows you the type of people we're dealing with. She previously signed a non-disclosure agreement. They only paid a third of that money because they said that she was leaking names out, absolute.
Yeah, so
I don't normally use the C word on this podcast, but I really want to use it.
I think that there is a time for reflection, isn't there, as to where do you put your money?
Yeah.
And who are you giving it to? And I know you've had lots of thoughts about it because it's really affected you over the past few days. You've been telling me that, you've read some things that you just don't ever want to sort of see again.
Yeah.
And I think you've been tussling, haven't you, with whether, and we do this with a number of factors in the entertainment industry. You kind of know behind the scenes that there are things going on that you're not necessarily happy about.
Yeah.
And it's whether you're I suppose the question is, if you carry on giving them money, if you carry on watching the shows, are you complicit in that abuse? That's the question, isn't it?
And I mean, look, I can carry on. I am able to hold my nose and listen to legendary musical artists, of which there are numerous allegations about. I am able to watch the films of legendary directors, of which there are numerous rumours about.
Yeah. Or indeed charges.
Or charges. yes, in some cases. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
This is different because this is my thing, I think. It really has torn me. Yeah. I mean, so as it happened, sponsors started to withdraw their support for WWE. So Vince McMahon now holds absolutely zero power on paper in WWE. There is still people within the organisation that Ronda Rousey, who had a contract with WWE 6 months ago, said, so long as this person is in the WWE, Vince McMahon will never not have power because he's a puppet for him.
Yeah, it's like a proxy.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of them things where it was like, has someone just created a fake? Nope, that's really Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. It sounds to me like people are feeling much more confident to come forward then, because I don't think you would have got that a few years ago where talent was feeling confident enough to come forward and say these things out loud.
Yes. Obviously, it's people that are not currently on the WWE payroll.
But still, if they wanted to go back in or, feel like they're burning bridges.
There was a big event last week, which obviously there was a press conference after, and it was handled really badly. Triple H, who is let's be fair, he's Vince McMahon's son-in-law, so must be in an awkward position. I don't think, I just want to concentrate on the positives this week is an acceptable answer. Says he hasn't read the lawsuit. I mean, he's chief content officer. It's his job to read the fucking lawsuit. And, if he hasn't done it, there is a unnamed executive in the lawsuit of which he would fit the description quite well, that knew of this woman despite having no reason to know who she is. But when she introduced herself, oh yeah, I know you, yeah, I wonder why, yeah.
So you were really excited to begin with, and now we've gone into sort of the negatives.
I mean, this news came within 48 hours of each other as well, so it was like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, for fuck's sake. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was away at the time and just sat there in my hotel room, just like reading it, going, I don't want to go on, but it's. Should we talk about things that I actually like? Watching television. Can we start by talking about the Traitors final?
Yeah, let's do that. That'll lift our spirits.
Yes. So spoilers for the final of season 2 of the UK Traitors. If you haven't seen it yet or you're catching up, we'll put the time codes in the show notes. Well, that was an ending, wasn't it?
Wasn't it just?
Oh.
How are you feeling about it now that the dust has settled?
It was an unbelievably addictive yet horrible watch.
Yes. It was proper hand over your face. Will they, won't they? Can this possibly work? Because surely it's not going to work like this, because only really almost like fakely produced television would work this way. Like, you can't believe that in a live situation where you just don't know what people are going to do, that they'll actually be this level of, oh my God, and real drama, real tension and drama.
So, well, let's describe what we're talking about. The final 3 was Molly, Harry, and Jazz.
Amazing Jazz.
Harry is a traitor, so if he is in the final 3 or the final 2, he gets all the money. Jazz and Molly don't know if a traitor is remaining, can continue the game or end it there. Molly and Harry choose to finish the game. Jazz chooses to carry on because he's been saying for a little while that Harry is a traitor,
and he's right.
he assumed he has.
Yeah, he has doubts.
He has joined some dots up based on things that people have said.
And he doesn't want to get to the end, and this is quite right. Jazz doesn't want to get to the end, and right at this focal point to be let down because he didn't just get rid of one person.
Yeah,
he thinks Molly is a faithful. He thinks Harry is not, he doesn't want to risk it. So quite rightly, he says, I'm going to go again. I want there to just be one other person at the end, and I'm going to trust that person completely. Obviously, it backfires because then Molly is stuck.
I mean, it didn't backfire. He would have got nothing had he not done it. He now has nothing. So
no, but I mean, it backfires in the sense
yes,
of
it didn't
it
work.
was a risk and it didn't work. because she then chose her friend, the person who she has been the closest to throughout the whole of the game, and when she is saying to him across the table, this is the bit that I found really, really hard to watch. She's nodding and she's whispering and she's saying, you're real, aren't you? It's not you. And he's got, it's fine, just do it. So off goes Jazz, and then she's left with him. And then I think you said at the time, you could see in her face
she knew
that she knew.
I mean, whether that's editing and that, I mean, whether she was, I think she's come out and said in her heart of hearts she probably did know, but
But you don't want it. It's the thing of you don't want it to be true.
Yeah.
And then obviously Harry has taken all the money, £95,000.
Bit anticlimactical, wasn't it?
What, the bit at the end where it just went outside
and with Claudia Winkleman went, I won £90,000.
And then there was just nothing, was there? It was almost that, and this I think shows you that the producers don't know what's going to happen. There was just nothing.
Yeah,
there was no.
He was just
sort
outside,
of fanfare,
and he got some champagne. Credits roll.
And then it was just a bit awkward, sort of standing about. And Claudia did her very best of touch the money and yay, you've won, and you've played such a great game. And but almost like it was sort of missing.
Studio audience makes a big difference, doesn't it? It was a bit like COVID, when you see people celebrating in football stadiums with nobody in them. It was very much like that, yeah.
And then it just sort of came to an end, and it was like, oh, it's over.
Yeah, credits roll.
I felt quite sad because
he had no one to celebrate with.
It was just sort of like, oh, that's it now. I was sad that. I was sad. I don't know why I wanted the faithfuls to. I think I wanted Jazz to win. I think that was the main thing. I wanted Jazz to win because he played, I think, a really, really good game, probably without even realising it.
Yeah.
Because and this was spoken about so much, he just didn't have that social capital within the group, like people like Paul and Harry and other people who were deemed to be the most popular, in inverted commas, and they kept talking about this, oh, you're the most popular, which is interesting when you give people that title. I find the group dynamics really interesting. But he sort of skirted around, people really liked him, but he just didn't have that sort of leading personality that the others put forward for themselves. And obviously they were both traitors, so that was interesting. He didn't have that, so he couldn't take people with him.
Yeah.
But he still played a really good game because he got to the final, because he didn't stick his neck up so much that they got rid of him.
Yeah.
I found him a fascinating sort of personality within the group.
I wanted Molly to win, or at least get part of the money. I wanted her to turn on Harry and realise the evilness of his ways. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of comment online about the relationship between them two, and I mean, it is ludicrous when you say it. Like, is it reminiscent of a gaslighting relationship? Is it reminiscent? There is a difference between someone who is living in a gaslit relationship and someone who goes on a show called The Traitors. And I think it probably speaks more about, as a society, we are able to look out for those things now. Whereas
I really agree.
20 years ago, it'd be, he showed her, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I totally agree with you. I know there's been a lot of discourse about it, and people saying, oh, it's just a show. And I agree, it is just a game show, and they all knew what they were doing when they were going in there. And the stakes are not incredibly high in terms of like life and death. It's money, and it's very useful money, and everyone would love to win £95,000, but at the end of the day it is what it is. But I suppose there's a but rather than an and. But I'm really pleased that people are talking about things like coercive control and gaslighting, because that's a conversation that we need to be having. I don't think it necessarily plays in this scenario, but good on, the British public for actually raising these things as an issue, because there will be other women out there who are not in a game show, who are having things, having experiences, and how validating for them to be seeing things like, oh, well, people talking about gaslighting, people talking about coercive control. So I think you can play it both ways. I don't think it has to be one or the other.
Absolutely.
But it is absolutely a game show.
Yes.
And he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was playing the game.
Yes, he was playing the game that he was chosen by the producers to
and that
play.
was what he needed to do. So that is absolutely fine.
Yeah. Well done, Harry.
Yeah, no, yeah. And they all seem like very lovely people. I think it was really well cast. Really, really well cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think someone said that they pick people who play games, like whether it be escape rooms, whether it be like physical games, whether it be like, that's what they're looking for.
Do you think I'd get on? Because I play WWE Guess Who with you.
I think you would be out day one.
I agree. I agree. Do you think I would be the quirky character that they need to get rid of at the beginning?
Not even because anyone thinks you're a traitor. You just trust me. You're hard to live with, love. It's
And also, I'm really not very good at these sort of team building game things. I'd be the one just standing at the side, sort of shouting things out. Oh, there's a light coming towards you. Like Miles did in that game.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're only going to talk about this for 5 minutes. It's fascinating, isn't it? Series 3. There's clearly going to be one.
It's going to happen, isn't there?
Yeah. Do you think it'll become like, you know how Big Brother started out really, really good, and then people started to become famous and realised they were going to get fame, and then they knew that the cameras were watching them, and it all got a bit, and then obviously we went into influencer territory later on down the line, and I just stopped watching after that. Do you think this might go the same way, in that they've seen the 2 series, they've probably seen the Australian one, the American one, and so there's more knowing, there's going to be that knowledge.
I think there is a difference in that if you were on Big Brother, you became a national name. We all remember, or me and you do anyway, Mary the Nun.
Yes.
PJ. Brian.
It wasn't Mary the Nun, it was Anna the Nun.
Anna the Nun. Who's Mary the Nun? Anyway.
Are you thinking of Tesco Mary from X Factor?
That's probably what I'm thinking.
You are?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
This is our level of conversation, by the way, everyone. Listing people from various shows.
Who's the one who did a wee in a bin and went off over the roof?
Oh, Sandy.
Sandy, thank you. Yeah.
It's so bad that I remember this stuff.
He was in the same year as when I was watching the beginning night, and 2 people from my school were in it. And
it's amazing because I've had 1 person from my school in it as well in 2004. So yeah,
high five.
Oh, yeah.
We're made for each other.
Yeah.
Whereas anyway, with this, I don't think anyone else will be doing. I think Big Brother became a way that girls could get a glamour contract.
I am going to pick you up on that.
No.
A lot of women did do that, but not all.
No.
If you're thinking about Alison Hammonds
but there was a certain element that joined. And on the first day, I remember watching it, and there were girls talking about, how long do you think you have to be in to get deals with magazines?
Yeah,
okay. Yes, I fully admit that it wasn't the
it's
exclusive reason.
I just don't want it to be all women who went on there wanted that, because that's a complete generalisation.
I don't think I said everyone. Okay. I said it became a way for girls to get, a route for girls to get glamour contracts.
Okay.
And that's, I don't think anyone's going to remember these people. Like, I've not seen anyone from the first series of The Traitors in things. I know that someone was on Would I Lie to You?
Would I Lie to You?
But,
yeah, one of
and
the
I think probably Paul probably will.
I mean, Paul's popped up on like Newscast. I've seen him on another podcast that I can't remember what it was, but it was so random. It was nothing to do with like television, and it came up on Instagram.
But this is your 5 minutes, though, isn't it? 15 minutes anyway.
That. But I think he'll probably get. I mean, I would, if I was a publisher, I'd be getting like a book of like mind games and strategy and how to be a charismatic person, and
I mean that's
in business.
Yeah, that's a
great title.
Great title for a book.
Charismatic man in business, But do you know what I mean? Those sorts of.
Nasty Nick was on the front page of The Sun with Brad Pitt wearing a The Sun hat.
I know.
Yeah, it's. I would hope that their casting remains true, and they're not just doing it to get wacky characters in. But I don't think you're spending the same amount of time with these people. Yeah. Like, you get up, they have breakfast, they do a task, and then they're around the table. So there's not space for someone to have a fun time in the hot tub or anything like that. It's just not the type of show that is.
Can we talk about True Detective now before you mention other things that happened in Big Brother?
Yes. Guess which things I said which were cut out of the podcast here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've seen 2/3 of the first episode of True Detective.
And this is True Detective Season 4, which is True Detective Night Country.
I don't understand why there's a wanky title after it this time, because there wasn't previously.
No, well, I can tell you why. I'm all 3 episodes that have been released in, so I've seen everything.
Okay.
So it was originally called Night Country, and it was nothing to do with True Detective. It was written by Issa Lopez, and she wanted to write about women in the police or sort of crime, and wanted to set it in Alaska.
Okay.
And so wrote this piece. It gets a bit murky because now the narrative's been muddled, I think, slightly, and it's either did she write it with True Detective in mind, or did someone approach her and say, well, we'd like to turn this into a True Detective? But that's why I think something has happened where the two things have come together, and she's rewritten it to factor in things that refer back to season 1 of True Detective, which I think was just a remarkable piece of television, if not incredibly, incredibly sinister, with some of the most horrifying scenes of child abuse and death.
Nothing was shown, but
the things that you hear,
those things stick with me.
The video
is that season 1?
Yes, it is.
Right,
yeah.
that has stuck with
thinking
me.
Of the same thing. We're thinking of Matthew McConaughey watching a video, and that was enough for both of us to remember that scene.
I watched True Detective season 1 later than everyone else. I think it was too hyped up at that point. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think the ending was a bit of a letdown for me. I watched season 2, and the one that everyone hates, and I think it's fine.
It's fine.
If it didn't have True Detective on the front of it would be a standard HBO crime.
Yeah,
detective.
I think that's right. And the third, so I think they were.
And I like the third one. Yeah. I really like the third one. Was third one Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali?
I want to say yes, but I know Mahershala Ali was in one of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's two or 3. That shows you how much it stayed with me. But 1, I can tell you key scenes. I can tell you character names.
Yeah.
And 4, I was really excited about because it's women at the centre of the story. You've got Jodie Foster.
Yes.
Amazing Jodie Foster going back to television. And you've got Carly Reyes, who is, I understand, a boxer, or was a boxer before, and this is one of her first acting performances as Evangeline Navarro.
Yeah.
And she is amazing. I think when you're going up against Jodie Foster, you've got to be such a presence, haven't you?
And she has presence. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they're very different women.
Yeah.
Very different women. And particularly in the show, the show really, really pits them against each other. This is not a comfy, cozy Cagney and Lacey, we get on really well together, we're best friends and we're trying to solve crimes. These people at times...
Rosemary and Thyme.
Well, exactly. These people at times are just so cruel to each other and mean and tell each other to shut up. And there's a scene in one of the later episodes that you haven't seen where essentially really picking each other apart for their own spiritual beliefs. They are antagonistic, absolutely. And there's clearly a history, and I'm sure we're going to get into that history, and possibly they like each other more than they, admit on the surface, because they have to if they're going to be working together. But I don't know about you. I know you've only watched the first episode, but I have been totally engrossed in this show. One of the reasons I really like it, it's not just because it's crime, we're trying to work out this crime in this really interesting setting, with all the ice. It's called Night Country because we're now in part of the season where it's just night all the time. There's very, very little daylight, if anything at all.
Yeah, it's the same as 30 Days of Night.
Yeah.
Same setting as that, the very far north of Alaska. Where,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's just really unusual to have all these things. There are some unusual things that are happening where you're not quite sure if it's supernatural or it's real. So all of these things are going on. For me, you can park all of that to one side. You can park the plot line. What I just really love is just the core presence of these women, the characters, the people who live in the area. Everyone is so well defined. And my major thing is that it makes me work for it.
Yeah.
I've watched every episode now at least twice. I've watched it sort of like normally, then I've put the subtitles on, then I've had it on in the background when I've been doing some bits and pieces around the house. Because I enjoy being challenged by it and not picking things up on the first go, not picking things up on the second go even. And you can always tell, or I can anyway, I can always tell when I'm really, really engaged in something, because I will seek out all of the spoiler podcasts, which I have. I think I've got 4 on the go at the moment. And some are like instant take ones where as soon as the episode comes out, there's a sort of like half an hour of what's going on, and I can sort of shout down the sort of the podcast line and go, oh, I don't think that's what happened. And then when they come back and talk about it, they've seen it again, and they now sort of maybe more on the wavelength that I'm on, but also doing some other thing. I just love it, and I wouldn't be listening to those podcasts if I wasn't really into it. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I don't care if it's got True Detective on the front or not. It's kind of a bit of here or there for me. I know for some people they'll love that because there are Easter eggs linking you back to specifically season 1.
Okay.
I'm not worried about that, and I'm probably missing most of them.
Yeah.
I'm just loving watching Jodie and Callie on the telly, working out what's going on, having that relationship. I think it's a brilliant piece of television.
Okay. I tried to watch it at the wrong time. You were away. I was trying to watch it whilst Blake was messing about, and I couldn't fully concentrate, so I put it to one side.
It's definitely not one.
I'm probably going to wait until it's all out and try and binge it. I had some issues with it. Remember when there was a big spate of female-led crime dramas on HBO, and it was like, right, you can pick any 2 or 3 of the ones either got relationship issues or substance abuse issues or something else. I can't remember what it was, but we discussed this on
because you took against Mayor of Easttown. I loved Mayor of Easttown with Kate Winslet. But you said exactly the same thing. It's like
Sharp Objects.
Yes.
And it just seemed to be the same subject, but with a different. I really liked the premise of this, and that was what drew me to it. Like which we haven't mentioned. I don't know whether you want to mention it. I think it's better to go and look.
I think it's better. That's why I was a bit coy with it, because I think again, it's, like you say, better to know, and you're put straight into the drama. It's not like a slow build up. The thing that's going to happen happens straight away. So then you're right into it.
When you get those sort of high concept premises, I do worry about how the final episode is going to go.
Yes, I agree. And this element of the supernatural, which people on the many, many podcasts that I'm listening to are saying was very much present in season 1, but I don't remember it being quite so in your face.
What was... I do, and I think I was quite worried. I was quite disappointed when I found out who the guy was at the end, because it never... necessarily, there was all shit swirling in the sky and stuff like that, and then it's the guy on the thing. Yeah. What happened? What was that one that was with Jason Bateman?
Yes. Now, I thought about this the other day when I watched episode 1. I thought it's a combination of sort of like early True Detective and that thing with Jason Bateman.
Yeah, Teen Wolf 2. That's it, isn't it?
And also had Cynthia Erivo in.
Yes, it did.
As well.
Yes.
And that lent much more into the supernatural. And we really enjoyed that, but also didn't enjoy it at the same time. And heaven only knows what it's called.
I'm looking it up.
I'm nearly there.
I
thought you would have got there by now.
The Outsider.
Oh, okay, that's probably why.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a generic name, isn't it?
Yeah, because then Paddy Considine...
That was a few years ago.
Rocked up at the end, didn't he?
Yeah. Enjoyed that. But yeah, that lent much more into the supernatural, but also had a crime drama spin to it.
It does feel like there's a formula with HBO. I'll say that. And yeah, I've not seen much apart from, I guess, House of the Dragon is the other thing that I've seen from them, which is different, but it seems like there's probably one every 6 months of these.
And coming back soon, House of the Dragon, which I'm looking forward to.
A joy.
Okay, right. On that note, films.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're hugging with your baby, last row in the balcony.
I'm going to touch on The Holdovers quite briefly, he says.
Because I have not seen it.
And then we have All of Us Strangers to talk about.
We really do.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, The Holdovers, the latest film by Alexander Payne. Have you seen any Alexander Payne films?
Why don't you tell me what Alexander Payne has done, and then I can reply.
Sideways?
No.
Nebraska?
Nope.
Election?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
Is that it?
I mean, there's more, but
Okay.
they're probably the ones you will have seen,
Right.
if anything.
Nope.
The Holdovers, do you know the premise of The Holdovers?
I know the basic premise, which is school/college teacher, grumpy, Paul Giamatti. Giamatti, is that how he says his name?
Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti. Stays at home, stays at school over Christmas, and on this particular occasion has to kind of like babysit a pupil who can't go home.
Yeah.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yay.
There is a group of students who aren't able to go home over Christmas. Fate ensues. Some people find a place to go to, and then there's one student who's left over. And so it's left with Paul Giamatti, the cook, and this child just in there over Christmas.
And he's not like a child, is he? He's like is
no,
he a
I think he's
teenager?
17 or 18. Yeah. It's a posh private school, public school in America.
And it's not set in present day, is it?
No, it's set in the set in the late 70s.
I
Sorry,
know
the early
more about-
70s. Yeah.
I know more about this film than
Yes,
I realised.
apparently you do. Yeah. Do you want to do the review?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, so Paul Giamatti plays Paul Hunnam, who's kind of an unpopular teacher. No one really gets on with him, a bit of a loner. He lives for teaching. Kind of, if you think Jason Schwartzman from Rushmore went back to his old school. And
as a teacher.
Yeah. Divine Joy Randolph plays Mary, the cook, who's just lost her son in Vietnam. And then Dominic Sessa plays Angus Tully, the kid that's left behind. The big thing around this is the performances. I've had a pretty negative thoughts on Paul Giamatti for most of his career. He's kind of like the art house Jim Carrey for me. Overacting. He's got his style, and boy, is he going to do it. And it's not for me, but he is spectacular in this. Divine Joy Randolph, who's someone who I've not seen before, is absolutely brilliant as Mary. But for me, the standout is Dominic Sessa. I spent the entire film thinking, where do I know him from? Got in the back of my head, like, his name David in something, and he's the son of someone famous. No idea who I'm thinking of, because this is his first acting role.
I honestly thought you were going to come up with something. Oh, wow.
No.
It's David, the son of...
But he absolutely nails his performance. Paul Giamatti and Divine Joy Randolph have been nominated for Academy Awards.
I was about to say, I'm sure I'd heard that.
I would easily put Dominic Sessa in there as well.
Interesting.
But he has been nominated for a BAFTA, which I think is more important.
Okay. Obviously.
Yeah. This overall is a story of how people react to grief. And obviously you've got Mary, who's just lost her son. But Paul and Angus both have their own like griefs that they're dealing with that play out really subtly and really slowly. It doesn't present itself at first, and you're kind of given hints, and then it's taken away, and it moves in different ways. And it's how about grief changes the course of people's lives. There is one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen in cinema in this, and I'll just say it's someone standing in front of a chest of drawers, and it's so subtly played and so understated. And I just sat there in a Cineworld screening that was sparsely attended because it was a big screen and like popular, but not that popular. And I was just bawling. I really, really was. I love this film. It's such a good film. I would be happy to see it go all the way in the awards. I'd be happy for Paul Giamatti to win Best Actor. Who's favourite for these? I've not really seen the odds for the Oscars.
Will it not be Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer?
Oh, yeah, it is,
I know
isn't it?
he's like the
Yeah.
big name for.
Sorry, I like
the-
Cillian Murphy, and
the
I don't dislike
actors.
Oppenheimer,
No,
but yeah.
no. I think that's who we're looking at for that. And then for the actresses, I'm trying to. It'll be Emma Stone or Lily Gladstone.
Yeah,
for,
of course, yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon,
Which we can't really comment on because we're...
aka the 400-hour film. How many days are we into watching it now, Mark?
We're 3 in, and we've got an hour left.
We're 3 in. And it doesn't feel like we've got an hour left. It feels like we've got 40 hours left. Genuinely. Every time we watch it.
It's a good film.
I'm enjoying it. But I'm enjoying it as a TV show that we have created.
Yes.
Because we've split it into...
It's a lovely miniseries.
4 parts. And it might even become 5 parts. If we,
there is a lot of joy in like waiting to see. Right, is this the bit? No. Let's give it a bit.
Let's give it a bit
That's
longer.
the perfect time.
And
Let's stop
now
it there.
we're into end scene. Yeah, great.
The Holdovers.
The whole lots of reviews that I have seen / heard are giving this film 5 stars. Are you in agreement?
So, I think it's no. I'm 4.5, a very high 4.5.
Okay.
I think there are a few storyline issues which, I mean, like, you can tell what happens when you get a cantankerous old teacher, little rebellious student, and a heartbroken cook.
Mother.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end of the film, but
Yeah.
I bet you can draw the line there now.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, I think the story was told, and the ending is kind of a 4th act. Which I was kind of happy for it to finish at an unnatural point 10 minutes before, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Throwing my phone about with my notes on.
Yeah.
And there's a few weird things with editing. There's a few weird cuts and stuff like that seem weird. I mean, there's one bit where someone's ice skating and like they're going about, so you see like ice on the front of the jacket. And I'm like, oh, right, they've done a bit where he's fallen on the floor and they've cut it out because it's probably a bit cliched.
Okay.
And then that bit happens like 2 minutes later, and
right,
it's like,
right.
that was really obvious.
That takes you out
like,
of the film.
I don't, yeah, and I feel you shouldn't nitpick, but when a film's this good, I think they could have done that better. But yeah, I'd really recommend it to anyone. I think you would really enjoy this.
I'm sure I would, yeah. I like anything set around education as well.
Yeah.
And anything griefy, great.
Yes,
right up my street. Education and grief.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's not so much about law teaching, but
No.
yeah.
It's probably more for the best.
It's more the classics, but yeah. You want to talk about All of Us Strangers, don't you?
I would love to talk about All of Us Strangers. We're going to talk about All of Us Strangers in a really roundabout way, because the less you know about this film, the better time you will have with it. And I've really benefited from knowing, I knew a little bit about the premise, but when I watched the film, I was then so grateful that I didn't know anything more than that. And actually, I would have loved it if I just didn't know anything.
So, All of Us Strangers, I'm going to have a little go at doing a plot.
It's hard.
Yeah. So this is about Adam, who's a writer, played by Andrew Scott, who's just moved into a brand new apartment block in London.
A big one. Shiny, with big windows.
One of the few other residents, if not the only other resident, is Harry, played by Paul Mescal, and they develop a relationship together. At the same time, Adam is trying to write a screenplay that he wants to base it on his past, and goes to research this at his old home.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, no further than that.
There will be more on the internet that you can there will be more in the trailer. If you know more, I don't think I knew more going in. I don't think it hurt me.
No.
But if I knew nothing, I would be absolutely jaw on the floor for this film.
Totally.
I mean, I'll say this now. This is the favourite film that I've seen since we've been doing this podcast.
Oh, wow. I was about to say for this year. I thought that's what you were going to say. Favourite film this year? And I was
No, but I've seen about 3 films this year.
But, I thought you were going to say something like, if this isn't my number one film of the year, that you'd be very surprised, because that's kind of how I feel.
No, this is my favourite film probably since Parasite.
It's superb, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely superb. The writing, the characterization, the way where the plot goes, and it's a film that just gives you feelings. It's full of feelings.
I think the performances from all four, because look, let's say the also appearing in this film is Jamie Bell and Claire Foy. I think the performances, and it's basically a four-hander for the most part. I think there's a waitress who appears at one point, and I think there's a flashback to a young Adam at certain points, but largely these are the only four people, certainly, who are named on screen. And yeah, like, give them all the acting awards, apart from supporting actor, because I want the guy from The Holdovers to win that, please.
All right.
I think the relationship between Adam and Harry is really beautifully drawn, and it feels dangerous at times.
I thought it was just incredibly romantic. Like, really romantic. I loved the building of this new relationship. You know, it really took me back to when you meet someone for the first time and you're getting to know them, and you're doing all of those sort of like late night chats that go away after a long time. Once you've been in a relationship with someone, those things sort of move.
I try.
Because, I know, but you've kind of had them. And so, you know, you're telling secrets at the beginning of a relationship. You're testing the waters as to how much you tell and you hold back. And I just thought it was absolutely, like you say, the word is beautifully played. But I didn't feel a huge amount of danger there. Apart from danger in the risk of like emotional danger of like, you know.
No, I don't think anyone was physically in danger, but it's clear that we don't know a lot about Harry, and I found that unsettling. Now, whether that was meant to be and whether that was how everyone felt, I don't know, but it's the fact that there is this mysterious man, which obviously adds to the allure of the relationship, but also put me on a back foot with him. I mean, it is a really, really beautiful the chemistry between these two actors, and obviously the two of the best actors we have in Britain at the minute. And Paul, obviously Paul Mescal's Irish, but two of the best actors we have around
So
at the minute.
Andrew Scott.
Oh, both Irish. Yeah. So I've offended. Offended everyone. Yeah, that's really wet. I mean, the direction is like selling a empty apartment block is an absolute genius.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't quite understand in the wider sense of the film what that apartment is meant to signify, other than just it's a set-in for the plot. And I've thought about that quite a bit,
But also, if you're thinking about sort of the architecture and the way that the film's designed, the house that Andrew Scott's Adam goes back to, his childhood home, when you see how that's decorated inside, it is absolutely a 1980s house. I was fascinated by the little tins on the, where people keep their biscuits. It was so authentic, it was like peering into, you can imagine peering into your home, your childhood home in the 80s.
There must be a biscuit tin in there, because that was what got me, and I went back to having a biscuit tin, and I don't know quite what it was. If it was something that made the biscuits stay fresh, but there was some sort of powder or ball bearings in the lid of the tin that we had as kids, and if you shook it, then it kind of like rattled a little bit. It really, really took me back. As a child of the 80s, it really took me back.
Yeah, and what I really loved about the film, without saying anything about the plot, but Adam is gay and he is older than Harry.
Yeah.
So Harry is using phrases that Adam's saying, we wouldn't have said that back in the 80s. That might have been a slur word, essentially. We wouldn't have accepted that. We would have thought that was but now it's been reclaimed, and then he talks about sort of the risk, and he's obviously referring to AIDS, and just there's this huge storyline which is so subtly done about where what people who grew up in the 80s had to deal with, and how far we have come, but also how far we haven't come.
Yeah.
So all of that is mixed into this story in such a subtle way. I think it's a phenomenal film, and what I love about it is that Andrew Haigh, who's the writer and director, you can tell it's very much linked to him as a person, as a gay man who grew up in the 80s, to the point where the house of Adam's childhood is Andrew Haigh's childhood home.
Yes, yeah.
He
it's
used
mad,
his
yeah.
own house. I mean, that's a level of personal that you just can't get away from.
Yeah.
And adds to the authenticity. I did not see where this was going. I think I loved it for that I couldn't guess. And I spent a lot of time, you do when you sit at the cinema and things aren't made completely obvious to you. You sort of sit and you work through, could that be that? Could that be that? Is that sort of cliche of film in the back of my head? Is that what's going to happen here? And none of it happened. And I didn't work anything out. And I loved it for it. And I felt deeply emotional leaving the cinema, and it's stayed with me ever since, and it's been sort of 3 days now. I can still hear the music in my head. I'm still thinking about certain scenes. I've come away really feeling that those people are real and they're not characters in a film. I know we've talked a lot about Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott, but you're absolutely right to bring up Claire Foy and Jamie Bell. Now, I know Jamie Bell because he grew up around here, and he was dancer. He's Billy Elliot.
Claire Foy, ruled the country.
Ruled the country as Queen Elizabeth. I know when I can hear in his accent, as I can hear bits of his accent coming through in this film as well. So I know that's Jamie Bell, but now in my head he is that person, that he is that character in the film.
Yes.
And I see him now as that person. I'm being very careful because obviously I'm not trying to give anything away. I'm not being deliberately generic. I'm just trying not to say anything. It's just phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like I said. Well,
it's so difficult to say other than give it all the awards, give it 1 billion stars.
Yeah, please watch this film. Like, if you want if you want a great film that will really, I cried, I laughed,
Yep, absolutely.
Sat there with a warm, happy feeling,
Totally.
and then I thought, oh fuck, what's just happened?
Yeah.
So literally a roller coaster of emotions. Watch this film. You will not regret it.
You're absolutely right to pick up on the laughter and this is not. It's
not dry.
It's not dry, and it's not miserable. Yes, it takes you through all of these different emotions, but you're absolutely right. There were things that, particularly Claire Foy's character, is saying that I was laughing and I was sniggering at, and I was sort of going, "Oh God, you absolutely would say that if you were that person." It's so rang true, but in a way that you're laughing because you recognise those people and you recognise those conversations. And there's some really, really fun, and there's some beautiful. I'm going to go back to the romance. There's just some gorgeous romance in this film that I really believed in and wanted to see on the big screen.
I think we need to just dive a little bit further into this film, but I think we need to say goodbye to people who haven't seen it. If there is ever a film that I think it benefits from learning as little as possible, if you were ever going to see this, please don't listen to this podcast now, I'd say.
Now.
Yeah. If you are leaving us here, thank you so much. We are on Instagram and Twitter, now known as X, at The Honeymoon Pod.
You want to see my face at this? There was a grimace.
And if you would like to leave us a review, that would mean the world to us. But yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Do you want to play some music just to separate it?
Right. Spoilers.
So let's start with the things that are revealed in the trailer. What a beautiful, beautiful concept of meeting your parents who are younger than you are now. Such a simple concept, and the source novel of this must be like. I'm tempted to read it, to be perfectly honest.
I
And
understand.
it sounds very different.
I understand
from,
the novel is very different and has more of sort of horror elements into it as well. But yeah, the primary thing is you're not going back in time. You're just meeting them. You're just going back to the house that you used to live in, and there they are.
No explanation. You are just there,
and they are just there.
And I really like the thing I admired most of it for 90% of this runtime is me saying. The thing I love about this is they don't make it clear you can read this as they are ghosts, but you can also read this as you are just revisiting it in your mind.
Yes, because he's a writer.
Yeah.
I love the conceit of the writer.
So he's created these characters and he's having these discussions with them.
And then he's going home and he's probably writing about it. Or he's sat at his typewriter writing away and they're constructs in his brain.
And then the ending.
Yeah.
So if you're still sticking around, really, really shut off the fucking podcast now. This is your last warning.
Did you see where it was going? Did you have an inkling?
I noticed we'd not been to Harry's flat.
Yes, I had as well.
And that we
didn't know very much about him.
That's why I feel this danger.
Right, okay.
I knew there was something hanging around Harry that would not necessarily... that was going to present itself in the final act.
Okay.
I didn't quite know what, and I didn't pick what. But the slow reveal of him going into the apartment and the little sniff.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, straight away. I knew straight away.
Yeah.
My instinct to begin with was that Harry had a drink problem because obviously he turns up at the door and he's got his, was it whiskey or something like that?
Japanese whiskey.
So he's clearly lonely, drinking a lot and knocking on, Adam's door. But then the next time he goes out, he said it's really, really subtle, but he says something along the lines of, I'm off. And something rang in my head of, ooh. And I think there's like 1% of my brain went, oh, he's off the drink because something bad's happened. What bad thing could have happened? And I think in the back of my mind, I went, something major's happened here.
It's an obvious... as we've discussed before, I don't look into these as closely as you do when we're watching things. I'm happy to go along with the ride, whereas I think you try and sort of work out like things like that. But yeah, it was an obvious point that he had booze at this point, and then the next time we see him,
he was like, essentially he'd gone...
A good writer will not put that in for no reason.
Yeah. And then when they went out as well... Adam's like saying, "Oh, do you want drinks?" And there's a hesitation in, and this Paul Mescal's acting is amazing. I could sense the hesitation, and then it was like pints, but almost, I don't really want to, and that makes total sense when you see what's happened.
Yes.
He's clearly had addiction issues. When you see the flat and there's the drugs and the alcohol, and obviously what's happened to him. But yeah, at the beginning I thought, Paul Mescal's getting a really rough ride here because we're not getting to really know much about him. It's all about Adam. It's kind of like the Adam show. But then I thought, well, if this is going to be about he's come to terms with the fact that his parents have died, and now he's going to, when they're saying to him, do you want to be in love with this man? He's like, I think I would like to be. And then you think, well, this is how he's going to learn about love, and he's going to open himself up to a relationship. What did you make of the very ending? So you've got Harry curled up on Adam's bed in exactly the same way as he is on his own bed downstairs. I thought that was very, like, with the hand and everything. He's clearly... So it's almost as if Adam's cradling his body that has died. But then you've got this sort of, like, they go in... almost like go off into stars, I couldn't quite work out what was going on there.
So, I mean, I took that, obviously, he was taking the ghost of Harry in his life. And again, I think there is things to be read about whether this is Adam's loneliness inventing this character that once popped up at his door, or if he is actually hanging around with ghosts in this empty...
because it makes sense, doesn't it, that he's seen his ghost parents and now he's seen his ghost boyfriend, that he can see dead people.
And what has happened is
like walking around like. Yeah.
I look forward to the American remake with Bruce Willis
Exactly.
in the title role. I just took the transition to stars as a transition to the credits. I didn't.
Okay, you didn't
quite see
look
it as
into
anything.
Because some people have taken it as Adam being dead, and Adam being dead the whole way along, and that the fire alarm at the beginning of the film actually was a real fire that where he died that night, and this is all part of his almost like purgatory, and that the building isn't really empty, and there would be lots of other people around.
And the briefcase is Marcellus Wallace's soul.
Yeah.
And
although Andrew Haigh has said, because obviously I've listened to a few things, he has said we don't know if this building is empty. It was designed as a manifestation of Adam's loneliness.
Yeah, so
or aloneness.
My pet hate is people reading into things of which there is absolutely zero evidence. This is the reason.
But this is the director and writer saying that.
Yeah, and he's saying it's.
He's not saying he's dead because the fire alarm went off.
Paul, is it Paul Haigh?
Paul Haigh.
Who's the director? Sorry, what's the name?
Oh, Andrew Haigh.
Andrew Haigh.
Yeah.
He can say,
Haigh.
In my mind, yes, he died. There is nothing in the film that suggests that, and therefore I don't know. I have the same issue with Blade Runner for the same reason.
Right, okay.
And
Deckard.
of the is
he a replicant?
Is he a replicant or is he not? Mm-hmm. And well, I mean, they settled that in the underwhelming sequel, but
I don't think they did settle that in the sequel at all. In fact, no, they didn't settle that in the sequel. They still left it quite open. Anyway, yes. So back to this one. So, but I think what I really love about it is that you can come out of a film like that and you can have multiple interpretations. And if you want to believe that Adam and Harry go off to heaven together, then that's lovely. And if that makes you feel happy, that's great. If you want to believe that all of the people have been a manifestation of Adam's mind, and that yes, he has found the body of this guy, but the person who then rocks up afterwards and chats to him isn't real, and he's having that conversation with him in his mind. And if that's what you want, like, you can't you? I like that about it, that you can have a combination of those things. It doesn't mean that you're right or someone else is wrong.
I just have a pet hate for fan theories of which there is absolutely no evidence.
Yeah. People looking for things. I think because it was left open, so people are going, oh, okay, has the writer left me any clues?
But, I mean, the reason that I dislike them is now because they become clickbaity. And
yes, totally.
Any number of websites that me and you could probably name right now will probably be writing what really happened in All of Us Strangers.
They have, yes.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I've got it from. Probably where I've got it from.
It was fun when it was a theory like that you only heard like, oh yeah, there was a stick, the elastoplast on the back of Marcellus Wallace's head and blah blah. I was like, oh, okay, right, that's it. And then it just pet hate here. Sorry, I don't like to take away how much I love this film.
What I really like is that places that like that are talking about it, because this is a quiet film. This isn't your big action, like you say. It's a four-hander. You know, it could have gone under the radar, even with the people who were involved.
Well, we touched upon this last time, but this played in a Cineworld that we saw in, like a city centre Cineworld. It wasn't just confined to the art houses,
That's
which
right.
is, I think, if the writer's strike hadn't been on, would probably be where it ended up. It's obviously January. There's not often a lot of stuff. I mean, Argyle's probably the first big film out this week, which sounds appalling, but from the reviews. But I'll go see it.
Yeah,
just 'cause it's the first big film out this year.
Absolutely. There were more people in my screening than I anticipated.
Okay.
Especially because I went on an afternoon.
Yeah, you went on an afternoon, didn't you? I went on a weekend and it was pretty sparse. But
yeah, there were a lot more people there than I would have thought would have been for a film like this.
Okay.
So I was pleased, and I think that's word of mouth getting around. Deserves everything. I'm really pleased for Andrew Haigh because he was behind 45 Years.
Oh, I love that film.
We loved that film, didn't we? And that was really a portrait of a long-term marriage, as the title suggests. And I think he's just so good at relationships and characterization, real people and real dialogue, which I just love. I think he's a brilliant writer.
Yeah, the first film of his that I saw was a film called Weekend, which is, again, a similar similar style, and really recommend it if it's one of them films that will kind of appear on Film 4 once in a while. Probably should have put this in before the spoiler
Before
bit.
the spoiler
but
bit.
how good's the soundtrack?
Yes, yeah. Proper 80s.
I am willing to say now that Build by the House Martins is the best song that you never ever hear on the radio.
I know. I remember when you know what? When it came on, I started singing. Like, not obviously, I'm not going to sing along to it because I'm not an idiot in the cinema. But in my brain, I was just like wow! I just love hearing this in a lovely dark screen, blasted out, absolutely beautiful, lovely bit of Alison Moyet. Obviously, a lot of Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
But what I loved about it wasn't like, oh, here's a song from the 80s, there you go. It was totally weaved in. There were lines from, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood songs that characters say to each other, but not in a stupidly contrived way. It all fit in to Adam writing about his childhood in the 80s.
And he had Now That's What I Call Music 10.
He did.
Which has Build by the House Martins on it, because I had it as a kid.
I think, again, this just points to the writer-director's personal touch on this, because I bet you he had it, and this has come absolutely from his personal collection.
I'm going to write a film that's based around That's What I Call Music 13, which had a big spaceship on the front of it.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Who was on that?
So the first track was The Only Way Is Up by Yaz and The Plastic Population.
Yeah.
Let's think what else was on there. I think we've got The Twist Your Twist by the Fat Boys.
Yeah. Chubby Checker.
Yeah. Chubby Checker and the Fat Boys. Mm-hmm. You thought that Chubby Checker was a member of the Fat Boys.
Chubby Checker and the Fat Boys. Did it have any mega mixes on? Because mega mixes happened in the 80s and don't happen so much now, which is really sad.
But it did have
Jive Bunny.
This is a really weird thing to be talking about, but it must have been that the Now That's What I Call Music albums were assembled and put together before some of the songs were out. And I remember there was a song called Ordinary Angel by Hue and Cry. And you had some now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So remember when, I don't know if you had them on vinyl or tape or...
No, I started on tape and then went to CD.
So if you opened them up, there was a little blurb, like a picture, and then a little blurb underneath, and it was like, oh yeah, follow up to their song Labour of Love, blah, 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 blah. And then it was released and didn't become a hit at all, didn't hit the top 40. It's a really good song. I really like it. I put it on the other day, actually. And then a couple of, on now... 15 probably, Looking for Linda by Hue and Cry was on.
Brilliant.
And the blurb at the bottom of that was, after the surprising lack of success for Ordinary Angel, Hue and Cry released this. Yeah. So that's my anyway, Now That's What I Call Music 13 is a brilliant album, and probably the highlight of the...
I mean, if you could write a award-winning film around that would be really helpful for us going forwards.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Right, if
I'm
you
just
are
looking now.
leaving us here, thanks very much for listening, and hope you enjoyed All of Us Strangers as much as we did.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.